So in this first video here, we got the update of what happened yesterday in Michigan with the Senate hearing and the carryover into what happens today. We don't quite know what's going on because Rudy Giuliani is supposed to be testifying in front of the state Senate today with more information, but we got plenty of information coming out of the stuff that happened yesterday. And we also got an update on the 100 ballots that were in Arizona that were supposed to be singled out and tested to see if they passed standards of the auditing process, and of course, and maybe a little bit surprising, actually found some ballots in that 100 that didn't quite come up to snuff. And then another little interesting development about the Pennsylvania claims and the veracity of their vote as well that is a little bit shocking, and it comes from one of our most unfortunately named organizations, Old Slave Ship Project. But first things first, I just want to go ahead and show you guys how the normie media is reporting on this. Michigan Senate hears from GOP, no Democrats or Detroit staff. Well, if you remember back to Pennsylvania hearings, they actually had independents, and in this hearing in Michigan as well, they also heard from independents as well. And a couple of people who were said to be Democrats have signed affidavits in Michigan. Yeah, contesting the fact that this was a little bit of a fucked up election. So it's just nice that they want to go ahead in the headline and already try to throw you off the scent. But it gets considerably worse from there. A litany of Republican poll challengers, officials, and others who support President Donald Trump told Michigan state lawmakers on Tuesday about what they consider to be irregularities that marred vote counting in Detroit. Good first paragraph, but as you can see, the allegations largely debunked or refuted. By who exactly? The ostrich media? Yeah, probably. Mirror those offered by Trump's campaign in rejected or withdrawn lawsuits that attempt to overturn and undermine the results of the election in Michigan. Yeah, but what about the one official lawsuit that has been sent by the official Trump campaign in Michigan? Yeah, don't want to address that one. Just want to talk about all the other ones that are adjacent to the official legal team. Yeah, fair enough. I understand you have a narrative to push. While no evidence of widespread fraud was presented. Oh, it's funny. It's funny. You can just write whatever you want. The arguments underscore the concerns that many Trump supporters who trust the president's unverified and misleading arguments that election misconduct occurred. Oh, just for a little bit more. How about that? Just for posterity's sake, shall we? One speaker alleged election workers counted the same ballot multiple times. Doesn't that scream irregularities? I don't know. That's a sentence later. Another said ballots were inappropriately replicated. We'll get to that one. A third said he and other volunteers had conducted an analysis that showed dead people voted. I've showed you that as well. Many said they were intimidated or otherwise prevented from closely monitoring ballot tabulations at TCF Center in Detroit. Yeah, it's really hard to see through windows that have poster board put up on them. Or when you're kept in cages, literal cages, dozens of feet away from ballot counting that's happening. Yeah, exactly. The hearing of the Senate Oversight Committee came after weeks of national scrutiny and the subsequent spread of misinformation about how Detroit counted the ballots. Yeah, the absentee ballots. Well, would you like to go ahead and squelch those concerns by providing any evidence that everything was on the up and up, or do you have stuff to hide? It's probably the latter, considering they're trying to run substantial disinformation campaigns like, oh, you know that red wagon that was, being filled with stuff in the middle of the night? Oh, it was just camera equipment. Well, everybody was at home, and we haven't seen any kind of videos or photography care of that camera equipment that was apparently being loaded into little red wagons, which you ask any professional photographer, you do not carry. It doesn't matter what fucking case you put her photography equipment in. You don't use a little red wagon to transport that. That's just a common sense, but that's hard to come by these days. The committee has no authority to mandate an audit, recount, review, or any other direct action related to vote counting in Detroit or anywhere else, although lawmakers did not discuss any specific legislation. They could discuss an election-related bill at future hearings, which will be held today and should be going on right now. The hearing began at 10:15 in the morning and wrapped at about 5:20 in the evening. Dozens of people spoke. Generally, they identified themselves as Republican poll challengers who worked at TCF. Wait a minute. Let's just go back to the headline for a second. no Democrats or Detroit staff, but they worked at the TCF Center. Last time I checked, Cobo Hall is in Detroit. It's weird how they like to say that everybody else is projecting their lack of evidence, and then they just go in and, I don't know, just flat out lie at this point. They aren't even trying to run any sort of disinformation campaign. There's nothing to see here. There's plenty to see here. Stop saying that. But because they won't give you the straight story, and this is a fairly long article where they're just going to go ahead and tell you, oh, there was no evidence whatsoever. Rudy Giuliani is just a old bitter moron who doesn't know anything about what he's talking about. See all these pictures of plenty of people that are around the ballots. That is definitely not anything that you should concern yourself with, and make sure that, you know what, you just listen and believe. All of those legal votes were counted, and there's nothing you can possibly do about it. See all the people that were around counting? There is, no evidence of widespread fraud whatsoever. Michigan poll watchers testified before legislature about election day voting irregularities from Just the News. Let's see if Just the News has just the scoop we're looking for. Michigan State Senate Oversight Committee heard testimony Tuesday from individuals who said they witnessed irregularities during the state's ballot counting process at the TCF Center in Detroit from election night, November 3rd, into the next morning. After all of the Detroit Republican poll watchers were told that they could go home because they were going to stop counting ballots overnight. But once again, that is an old story that has been repeated ad nauseum, especially by me. But it still begs a question. Why the fuck would you do that if you weren't trying to cheat outright? Oh, I answered my own question. Fair enough. The hearing is occurring about 1 month after the state's House and Senate Oversight Committees approved subpoenas related to Michigan's general election. And tomorrow will be the 1 month anniversary of the election. Yay! Several witnesses who, on election night, worked as poll watchers and challengers testified that they saw problems occur with the ballot counting process. Well, Detroit Free Press, he said that nobody who is affiliated with the Detroit ballot counting process was asked or provided any testimony. That's weird. I don't know who to believe anymore. At no time were we able to actually physically see the ballots and then see it in the poll electronic book. One witness who spoke of her time as a poll watcher, during which she was purportedly kept so far away from the ballot counters that she could not possibly execute her task effectively. That's those cases where people were 15, 20, 45 feet away. Yeah, so it was always claimed that happened, but now people who have signed affidavits have gone in and said this in these public hearings. So remember, guys, no evidence, though. No evidence whatsoever. Now, one of the military ballots was a registered voter. Okay, and the ballots looked like they were all the exact same Xerox copies of the ballot. Okay, now, I want you to cast your mind back, because this just jogged my noggin here. In Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, he said that there were like 8,000 ballots that needed to be counted for military personnel. And most of those did not get counted, by the way. And they ended up breaking quite a bit for Joe Biden. Not necessarily a traditional outcome that you would tend to expect. Going back even a little bit further, Al Gore versus Bush in 2000, Al Gore had a bunch of Florida military ballots thrown out as well on signature check. So there's a long history of fuckery with absentee military ballots. They were all for Biden across the board. There wasn't a single Trump vote. A female witness also said that bad faith ballot counters manually entered names, addresses, and birth dates of January 1st, 2020. Who would have thought 10-month-year-olds would have had such informed political opinions? Wow. Kids these days, they're miraculous. Affiliated with the military ballots of unregistered voters to override the system that would not accept unregistered votes. So that's how easy these systems are to override. All you need to do is just put in January 1st of the year that you're counting in, and all of a sudden you can just put in all the information that you need to all fucking willy-nilly. But remember, most secure election in history just happened, right? President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who was spearheading most of the campaign's legal efforts to overturn apparent results of the presidential election, will appear a Wednesday hearing in Michigan to testify before the House committee. And that's what we're waiting for the aftermath of going forward. So I imagine we'll be hearing some shit about that tomorrow, but once again, it could just be Rudy Giuliani being hyperbolic. But last time we got some information out of that was the like it says there, Monday in Phoenix, Arizona, where he kind of cross-examined, more or less just asked questions from that former colonel who said that 35,000 additional votes were allocated for each Democratic candidate. So we could be getting some cool stuff out of this, but of course the hearing hasn't happened or concluded yet, so I don't want to report on things that A, don't exist, and B, are incomplete. Otherwise I could just get a job working at the Daily Beast. But speaking of Phoenix, like I said before, we had, I think that was yesterday, it came out that a judge made a ruling that 100 randomly sampled ballots from these Democratic poll counters, most of them are elected, and pretty much every election official is Democratic regardless of the state. So I was quite skeptical that anything would come out of the 100 ballots that were going to be sequestered and given an audit to in order to figure out if there was anything wrong with them. But 2 out of the 100 were fucked up at some level. Now you might not think 2 out of 100 is a big deal. You would be correct in most cases. That is 2%. You guys remember from yesterday, Biden's lead is under 11,000 votes in Arizona. Not saying that you would continue to extrapolate it out and 2% of absentee ballots would end up being fucked up. But if that is the case, that would be significantly more than the less than 0.5% that President Trump apparently lost Arizona by. So Maricopa County Board of Supervisors intervene. An additional 2,700 adjudicated ballots will be reviewed for potential vote switching. So yeah, it looks like because that first pool of 100 ballots came back and shit was fucked up on them, we're going to be getting another sample size. Now where that sample size goes from there, if they find a significant amount, if they find another 2%, or if they find a significant number have irregularities on them, I think that some of the lawsuits that are in Arizona might have considerable legs to them. So that's the update that we got today on Arizona. I don't quite know what else is going on. A lot of shit is hitting the fan tomorrow with Nevada, with I think some stuff in Georgia, but I'm not entirely sure. I know that Sidney Powell was at some sort of a rally. And that begs me bringing up this article. Yeah, Lin Wood and Sidney Powell had a rally. Remember, they aren't officially a part of the Trump team, but they are suing on behalf of the interests of the Trump team. So they're kind of like your third cousin twice removed. Sidney Powell, Lin Wood opposed Trump, push Georgians not to vote for Senate runoff. Like Breitbart. Okay, they're normally pretty good, but this headline sucks a dick. I did a little bit of reading beforehand, and for whatever reason I didn't want to include it, but yeah, it's changed during the course of this recording here, so I'll just go ahead and read a little bit. Powell, who is not affiliated with the Trump legal team, told a crowd of supporters, "I think I would encourage all Georgians to make it known that you will not vote at all until your vote is secure, and I mean that regardless of party." That is fucking correct. You know what? If you're just going to go out there and you're just going to mindlessly cast the vote based on party lines, and you know the fucked up shit that's happening in Georgia right now, do you really think that anything's going to be secure? Do you think you want to reward the less than admirable actions that have been happening in Georgia right now? They are doing the bare minimum out there in Georgia. Okay, they do not need to be rewarded for the fact that, oh yes, we went through a comprehensive canvas audit and recount, except for we forgot the first 2 points, so we just did a straight recount. And oh, we found 5,000 votes. Oh, that's not anything that we should really concern ourselves with. Yeah, looks like everything's cool and on the up and up. Make sure to come out for that runoff election. Nothing fucked up's going to happen about it whatsoever. Yeah, exactly. So Georgia needs to figure their shit out. All of these other states need to figure their shit out. And that's a good message to put out there. You know what? Make sure that this stuff gets cleaned up before we trust your process again. Now, just because the Detroit Free Press, which is a part of the USA Today network, by the way, they want to tell you that there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Well, one of the major lawsuits that Powell's team has dropped is specifically targeted on Georgia, and quite possibly the best lawyer on the internet right now, Robert Barnes, is personally taking a hand in what's going on in Georgia right now. So I do believe there is some serious concern about what's going on there. So yeah, until they get that figured out, I wouldn't bother engaging in their process, because you could go in there and you could vote Republican. That's cool. You like Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. That's cool. who's to say that that vote that you cast that has those two names on the ballot are actually going to go to that person? Or if they're actually going to be counted at all. Maybe they'll just end up in a ditch or on fire. Or they just don't make it. Or maybe, hey, they'll look at it. Oh, okay. And then they'll just put it in a bin for the opposition. It's not like that hasn't been testified and has signed affidavits documenting those exact same occurrences happening. So yeah, it was just a little detour. I didn't intend on talking about Georgia, but the fucking bears updating, I suppose. It's been a couple of days since we talked about the Peach State, home of CNN, which we might get into in another video. How about we wrap this off with Pennsylvania and New York? Up to 288,000 mail-in ballots allegedly disappeared. Wow. A new report by the Amistad Project. Ugh. Like, were they confused? Like, they were like, oh, okay, there's a Nina project already, there's a Pinta project already, and what was the third ship that Christopher Columbus took over? The Santa Amistad. Right, okay, yeah, we'll go with that. It means freedom, right? Oof. Which is gathering evidence on election fraud in the 2020 U.S. election, alleges that up to 288,000 ballots disappeared, while another 100,000 were improperly backdated. Okay, Rebel News, if I'm going to drag Breitbart for burying the lead in their headline, I'm going to do the same to you. That means 388,000 ballots are fucked up. But it's better to underreport than to overreport, because then you'll end up saying things are biblical when they're just kind of, factual. Mail promoting President Trump was allegedly junked, while mail for Joe Biden was delivered. Oof. The Washington Examiner reports that in the report, the United States Postal Service contractors allege that a trailer full of 144,000 to 288,000 completed mail-in ballots that he drove between New York and Pennsylvania disappeared after he arrived at the mail depot in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Wow. Remember, Pennsylvania is only decided by a lot less than 100,000 votes at this point. Another contractor claims that numerous ballots were backdated by postal workers. Another person, Traverse City, Michigan, Trump campaign mail was junked in bins labeled undeliverable bulk business mail, while similar letters sent by the Joe Biden campaign were delivered. Jesus. As reported by the Examiner, the claim was unveiled by the Amistad Project of the Thomas More Society, which has mounted an independent investigation of voting and voter registration in several key battleground states. It recently made headlines by revealing that the FBI has requested the findings of its voter integrity project. Ooh, I trust the FBI, right? The project has uncovered potential flaws and fraud in ballots and voter registration of several states and the certification of the election counts in favor of Biden. The paper continues. In today's release in the press conference, and the group said that the whistleblowers found that election officials in mostly Democratic areas manipulated ballots and campaign mail, potentially influencing the outcome. The Amistad Project offered a review of their findings, which included postal subcontractor Jesse Morgan on October 21st moved 144,000 to 288,000 completed mail-in ballots from Bethpage, New York to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where his trailer holdings the ballots disappeared. Question: why would Pennsylvania votes be collected in New York? Just asking for a friend. Postal subcontractor Nathan Peace is told by two separate postal workers on two separate occasions that the United States Postal Service in Wisconsin was gathering over 100,000 ballots in the morning of November 4th to backdate the ballots so that the ballots would be counted, even if they arrived after the statutory deadline. Son of a bitch. It's not bad enough that they are already unconstitutionally sent out. It's that people lazy enough to not send them in on time would just, we'll just look past that again and just kind of backdate them for you. We're out here to help, your friendly postman. Computer expert Gregory Stenstrom? Sure. Bet he owns a nice menswear facility. That just screams Stenstrom's big and tall. I don't know about you guys. A Pennsylvania witnessed the vendor of Dominion machines and local election officials download and update counting machines in violation of election system protocol, and the commingling of the machine jump drives in violation of election protocols and rendering audits impossible without direct forensic access to the machines. Thank God a couple of those lawsuits out there call for the subpoenaing, there we go, of these election machines. and the jump drives as well that magically don't get uploaded when they have a significant Republican lean to them. It's weird how that works. Postal workers in Traverse City, Michigan, Coriopolis, Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, and Elkins Park, Pennsylvania indicate widespread malfeasance in the postal service, including backdating ballots. And I forget Buddy's name from Project Veritas, but he's alleged that as well. Ordering the Trump mail be interdicted to the place in the undeliverable bulk mail bin and emphasizing the Biden mail be delivered on time. So I guess when you work real hard to get that postal service endorsement, it looks like it's paying off. And, it's probably easy or at least possible to figure out when these ballots were backdated and if they were in fact improperly backdated, like if they arrived late and then they got stamped for the 3rd. It's probably, I'm definitely not a forensic analyzer when it comes to this, but I'm sure you're probably able to figure this out. All people are asking for, all they're suing for, is just an opportunity to look, okay? If you have nothing to hide and everything's all on the up and up, just let people do signature checks, okay? We've already seen in Arizona, okay, you gave the opportunity out there and they found out, hey, a couple of things were fucked up. Okay, take a look at a few more. I'm sure they're going to find something that's fucked up, because if they couldn't properly curate 100 ballots, what lets you think that they're going to be able to do the same for 2,700? So yeah, so we got shit happening in Michigan, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, yeah. And yeah, stuff's going to start hitting the fan tomorrow in Nevada, and I think in Georgia, and definitely some more stuff in Michigan as well. So it's going to continue to get spicier and spicier, because the Electoral College is supposed to meet I think on the 15th or something. So we still got a full week of stuff, and Supreme Court hasn't done dick all so far. Oh, they haven't had the opportunity to, because a lot of this stuff is still just kind of being kicked around at the state level. So once things start getting figured out, I guess I'll have to start knocking on those big doors in Washington. So thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.